Howdy, howdy. It's Trisha Lee in Alberta, Canada. Welcome to today's special edition of the Disruptive Technology Hangout. So we rescheduled our Hangout for today, and we're having it at the special time, 6 p.m. Eastern. And if you stick around till the end of the Hangout, I'll explain to everybody why we rescheduled and are hosting our Hangout at a different than our normal time. So joining me today, as always, is my partner, LVII. He is the Vice President of Development for King Sunshine Solar Systems and the CEO for TK Environmental. And today we're going to talk about a subject that's very close to both of our hearts. Larry's always been an environmentalist, and his entrepreneurial career path has been closely linked to recycling. Larry created a patented process for being able to adhere a new plastic material to used plastic material, thus saving the landfill from literally tons of plastic that was garbage. And he sold that company in 2009 or 2007, I believe, and in 2009 we started working together with TK Environmental and King Sunshine. And so today we're going to be talking about the R's, the ecology R's, like reduce, reuse, recycle. I think there's some other ones too, but those are the main ones. And this ecological movement of people wanting to take hold of sustainability in their lives has led almost a vast majority of the communities, at least here we are in North America, to adhere to these R's of reducing, reusing, and recycling. And our main business within the TK Environmental Corp is recycling collection. So recycling is super close to our hearts, and Larry's going to describe to us all the ways that reducing, reusing, and recycling materials is affecting the marketplace and basically disrupting existing businesses and creating new businesses. So go ahead, Larry, and share with us your thoughts on our topic for today.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting that you say that I've been an environmentalist all my life. I actually thought about that when you said it, and it brought me back to when I was a little kid living on the farm. We had this thing, and I'm sure most farmers are familiar with the burning barrel. The burning barrel is where we used to take our garbage, whether it was compost or plastics. It didn't matter what it was, whatever the waste you didn't have a use for on the farm, you burnt it. And I can remember vividly my mother and my sisters used aerosol deodorant cans, and there was, of course, no recycling back then, and so they used to put it in the garbage. So I was in charge of the burning barrel, and the burning barrel exploded, and I wasn't badly burnt, but a lot of flying flaming garbage pieces ended up hitting me, which was quite a learning experience. It was traumatic because I still remember it, and so that was a very good lesson on why we shouldn't be burning stuff. It happened to be, I must have been nine or 10 years old, and I was in charge of the burning barrel. So, and then of course, then I read Future Shock in junior high school, and that kind of put everything in perspective for me. And thought, and just judging by the title of the book, what I focused on in that book was about the creating the throwaway society, and that is what we had created, and we're still creating that society, and it's gotten a lot bigger than it ever has been in history in North America, especially in North America. on our trip to Germany that we took for a solar uh, exhibition with our solar products with King Sunshine. We also learned a lot about waste management in Germany and how it works. So in Germany, all your packaging, if you're a company and you're manufacturing a product and it comes in packaging, as the manufacturer, you are responsible for that packaging, where it's going to go, and it's not allowed to go into the landfill. So that's pretty strict. And guess what? It's working. It's working for them. It's been working for a number of years. So here we are in North America with lots and lots and lots of land. We got, I think Germany would probably fit into New Brunswick. And so I could be wrong on that. I've never compared the size of Germany to any of the provinces in Canada, but it's definitely a small country compared to the rest of North America, where we only have three countries: Mexico, Canada, and the US. Anyhow, what I really wanted to talk about is how this recycling has been disruptive in history. A really, really good example is Germany, and how Germany has managed their recycling program with high greater importance than composting. Recycling comes first in Germany, and compost is way down the ladder. So much to the extent that in Germany, 80% of the 80% of their waste stream. Now we're talking their entire waste stream for each individual is 80% of it is recyclable. We saw that. I saw that with my own eyes. I was in a country that I knew a lot about. No, I shouldn't say a lot about, but it was when I went to Germany, I didn't know what to expect at all. I was so impressed by the way these people were living, the Germans, that it completely blew my mind. I think one of the main things that really affected me was how healthy everybody was. There was no obesity. I don't remember seeing a single overweight. Well, there was some overweight guys. However, there was just a handful. And of course, you take trains everywhere in Germany. So you see a lot of people. It's like going on the LRT in Edmonton or something like that. You see a lot of a good cross section of your population. So I only remember seeing one person, and that person was handicapped, physically handicapped, and she was happy, and she was trucking around. She was, I remember her trucking around, and I thought that person, if she was in Canada or in the U.S., would be motoring around on a scooter, an electric scooter of some sort. But this person was healthy enough that she could actually get around, and that's just what I experienced while being there. I don't remember seeing a single scooter for anybody, young or old. Maybe a few canes. Anyhow, this is a little bit off topic. What my point is that recycling for them, I don't think was as disruptive as it might be in North America. Excuse me. North America's got a different history than Germany, far different history than Germany. However, there's some things that we can learn from European countries on how waste management can be better managed. If you consider maybe 50%, I've been told by the Recycle Council of Alberta that 50% of our waste stream is garbage and 50% is recycling. Out of that 50% would be your compost. So if you look at Germany, if their 20% is garbage, that would maybe mean we're looking at 30% of our waste stream being compost, and 50% being recycling. So knowing that information, it means that why are we dedicating so much energy to composting instead of recycling? Well, here comes the truth here. Recycling disrupts other businesses, other industries that are in the business of making money from selling virgin materials made from natural resources and a lot of non-renewable resources. One of these that comes to mind is plastics. Now, how is recycling plastic disrupting the recycling or disrupting the infrastructure for manufacturing plastic? Is, and I'm basing this on my experience as an injection molder as well. Recycling, when you start using a lot more recycled material in your product manufacturing, you end up not having to buy as much from the manufacturers of plastic. So what this equates to is, where does plastic come from? Plastic comes from oil and gas products. So if you start recycling more oil and gas related products such as plastic, then that means there is not as much oil and gas being resourced from fossil fuels. So they're not having to take as much fossil fuels from the earth to manufacture plastics if you're recycling the plastics. Now, being in a country or a province that is so heavily focused on the oil and gas industry, that's quite disruptive. When you start recycling plastic, all of a sudden you're taking a little bit of the profits that are made being made from oil and gas production. So is that a real big deal? Apparently to the Germans it wasn't. And it has never been a big deal to them. They live they have their infrastructure, which they more than likely changed in a short amount of time, and they did it the smartest way possible. And so I think we should be doing the same thing, simply because the rest of the world is doing it. We're coming back full circle to this whole thing about what the rest of the world wants, and we have to, it's like we're bringing up the rear on this whole issue, this greenhouse gas reduction issue, eliminating greenhouse gases. Recycling, reusing, and reducing is the number one way of eliminating greenhouse gases. So how does this disrupt the rest of the infrastructure of our economy? It doesn't. It just means that if you're working for the oil and gas industry, you have to get retrained or retrain yourself and look at the opportunities that are becoming available for recycling. These opportunities are completely being overlooked at the present time, and a lot of the recycled materials that we collect in Alberta, a majority of the materials that we collect in our Alberta are being shipped out of the province. This is a resource that is costing us money to ship away. This would be like, well, it's very similar to the way we've been giving away a lot of the oil and gas products that we produce here. A lot of people don't look at it that way. However, the royalties have always been a big issue for Albertans. Are we getting the value that we should be getting for our oil and gas products? The answer to that is no. We have never received the value of oil and gas is on the world market. Albertans have always gotten the short end of the stick. So be that as it may, that's another issue altogether. Now, when it comes to the recycling end of things, plastic is a big part of our waste stream all of a sudden. In the past 6 years, we have seen an increase tenfold of what we are collecting for plastics. These plastics basically have almost no value. Once they're made, they don't have a lot of value. Who's responsible for it? Not the manufacturers of the plastic packaging. The end user is responsible for it. So this has got to change. And I think the change that should be made is similar to the way the Germans are doing it. Why? Because it makes sense. It's easy. If you're selling a product and you're selling a package in your product is both the product that's inside the packaging and the packaging itself. So what does this mean for opportunity for Albertans? It's mind-boggling. The being able to take plastics and make other products from plastics is just starting to surface as a possibility. It has been going on for a long time regarding high-density polyethylene or number 2 plastics. I can remember years ago a company in Edmonton taking milk jugs and manufacturing pretty high-quality products, new products, out of regrind milk jugs. And what regrind is when you take a product like a milk jug and you put it into a shredder or a pulverizer, and you get flake or little beads that come out of the pulverizer. And that's how plastic starts. And I'm of course talking about the thermal plastics that are the most popular for packaging. So in regards to recycling, we have number 1 to 7 plastics. Number 1 is a PET plastic. I can't remember the exact terminology for it. Number 2, or the chemical name. Number 2 is high density polyethylene. Number 3, I believe, is PVC. And number 4 is low density polyethylene. Number 5 is polypropylene. Number 6 is styrofoam or polystyrene. And number 7 is other. And what other falls into, or category now, there's something called PLA. And can't remember exactly what that one is, but I believe it's more of a plant-based plastic, which is kind of unique. However, although it's possibly being made from plants, I'm not sure exactly, it still should be recycled. So out of those 7 types of plastics, 5 are being collected locally. There's 2 that are not even being collected. So they're going straight to the landfill because nobody wants them. So I think what this disruptive...
And I just want to point out that is super, super bad news. I watched, this is like going back over a year ago. I watched this photographer. He went to this place called Bird Island. I'm not sure where that is. But anyway, he went and he took some really, really disturbing photos. And basically, it was all of these birds. And he basically showed birds that were in various stages of decomposition. And some of them he actually cut open, and some of them had decomposed to the point where you could see the carcasses. And within the rib cages were like little plastic caps for bottles, little tiny pieces of bags. And so what happens is these little bits of plastic eventually go from the landfill, either through runoff water or by the wind blowing this stuff. I don't know if you've ever been to a landfill, but when that big bulldozer comes and pushes that garbage around, you'll see all kinds of stuff flying up in the air, and the wind picks it up and blows it away. And when the rain comes, it gets washed away into the water supply, and these birds end up ingesting it, and it's fatal to them, because what happens is their stomachs get full of this plastic that is undigestible for them. And so basically they starve to death. They can go and find food like bugs and stuff that they're supposed to eat, but they're not able to process it because their stomachs are full of plastic, and they end up starving. So it's super, super, super important that, like you're saying, the manufacturers of these products that have these types of plastics as packaging are ensuring that this stuff is not ending up in the landfill. And we have to be able to come up with ideas and take action to be able to find ways of recycling these types of plastic that currently are just sent to the landfill, because that, in my opinion, is unacceptable. As human beings, we're supposed to have dominion over nature and like animals according to the Bible. However, it doesn't say anything about destruction, about about it being okay. And I think every single human being on the planet senses instinctually deep down that it is not okay for us to engage in behavior that is destructive and that harms other animals or wildlife and ourselves ultimately, because we all are connected and we all share this planet. So although right now it's birds dying, at the same time, there's other effects that are happening that we can't necessarily see. But I predict that in the future, a lot of these landfill materials are going to come back and be shown as major cancer-causing agents within the environment. And so, you know, the birds are like the canary in the coal mine, showing that, you know, having all this toxic plastic not able to biodegrade, having it out in the environment just floating around is deadly for them. But for humans, it may not be deadly initially, like we're not able to see that right away, but for future generations and moving forward, it's just going to become a bigger problem for all of us if we are not actively working together to solve the issue and making sure that we're able to reduce, reuse, and recycle wherever possible, irregardless of those that may discourage that behavior because of some financial issue or some paradigm that does not serve all of humanity and our environment as a whole. So I just wanted to point that out.
That's a good point. And I think I like to speak mainly on plastics because most people already know that a long, long time ago, wood products that are paper, cardboard, mixed paper, and office paper, newspaper, those products are easily recycled. And by recycling that stuff instead of composting it means that we're saving more trees, because you cannot make paper out of soil, which is what composting produces. You can grow trees, but how long is it going to take to grow a tree in order to make tomorrow's newspaper? So how does that disrupt when you're looking at plastic as one issue for recycling? I wanted to talk about plastics because it is actually now becoming almost one half of the recycling waste stream. And this is based on our knowledge with TK Environmental Curbside Recycling. We've run this business since 2009. It's been in operation since 2002. So this is what we're actually seeing with our own eyes. This information is being incorrectly reported, I think, by the government, as possibly by municipalities and cities themselves. And I think one of the main reasons for that is the companies that are running a lot of waste management industries are not coming from an environmental background. These companies are coming from waste management backgrounds. There's a huge difference between having an environmental company and having a waste management company. Waste management, you're looking at how to get rid of waste. environmental companies are looking at how do we protect the environment? How do we keep trees from being cut and harvested? How do we keep fossil fuels from being depleted by constantly making new product? And as you mentioned, Trish, having plastic end up in the landfill is one of the worst things that can happen. So, and everyone's guilty of it. Like, we're all guilty of putting things into the garbage that should not go into the garbage. And I think the main thing is probably your plastic grocery bags. Uh, there's a lot of bad media reports on plastic bags. There's no problem with plastic bags. There's a problem with people not recycling them. So that's why plastic bags should not be going to the landfill. They, of course, are LDPE or number 4 plastics. It's the low density polyethylene, which is easily recycled. So when it comes to putting your garbage into the landfill, use a paper bag, use a biodegradable bag, and not a plastic biodegradable bag. The reason why we suggest that with TK Environmental is that the real biodegradable bags are based on some sort of plastic that, or sorry, some a material with properties very close to plastic, and I think those are considered the PLAs. And as we were talking, I remembered the PLAs are actually a number 7 plastic, but these are organic plastics. They're not made from fossil fuels. They're made out of things like cornstarch and sugarcane and a whole bunch of real natural, renewable stuff. How they got lumped into the number 7 category is a bit of a mystery. I think the number 7 recycled symbol is kind of like, what do we do with this? Let's put a number 7 on it. And that's a little bit confusing to recycling in general. You know, what do you do with the product? Um, we do not separate the plastics into the 7 categories because we deliver it into a local recycle depot where they are expected to do that, but they also don't do it. Right now, they are just shipping their plastic away and spending money to ship it away. It's almost like manufacturing cars and then just sending them to people to drive. You know, it's actually that's a bit of a crazy comparison, but manufacturing any product and then giving it away while you're paying for shipping on it is really what's happening to a lot of stuff in Alberta and in Canada in general. I haven't heard of a lot of industries that are doing things with plastics. There's a few, but it's only a handful. So most of the plastics are actually not being reused; they are being sent off. So if we look at the disruption effect of recycling again, focused on plastics, there's a lot of plastics that go into the garbage because they cannot be identified because they're old plastics. It's not really difficult to identify old plastics. Um, Even if something was manufactured before they started labeling, a lot of toys already have markings on them now. I noticed a lot of kids' toys will be marked with the number 2, with the number 7, whatever plastic the toy is made of. There's older toys that are not marked like that. However, it's still not a big deal to identify what kind of plastic is that. However, these plastics are still ending up in the landfill because they haven't been identified in manufacturing with the Mobius loop or the recycle label. So how does this stuff? Are you okay? I thought you were being attacked by a bee or something. Um, the the uh, the toys and things like that that are going into plastics are going into landfills. should all be identified. Even before they go to the landfill, they can be tested before being discarded into the landfill. So technically speaking, the landfill should only be receiving organics. So if you're putting organics into your landfill, why are you composting? Why is anybody composting? The truth of the matter is that there's only some things that have to go into the landfill, and that's only 20% of our waste stream. And it's actually, well, here it's probably closer to 80%, just based on how many people actually use the recycling services available here. So that's needs to be adjusted.
Well, I do have to tell you though, based on a lot my travels here in Canada, as far as I can see, in most things in Canada, we are usually well behind the US. However, on this particular front, I think it's just because we have such vast, pristine wilderness here and such a small population that, and also because of our immense amount of natural resources, we kind of all in Canada have this consciousness and awareness about, okay, we've got this beautiful, magnificent wilderness. Let's try and keep it that way. And then at the same time, we have these, especially in Alberta, we have this massive resource with oil and gas, coal, all kinds of timber, tons and tons of natural resources for such a small population. And so the conservationist awareness within Canada's population, I think, is actually pretty high caliber. When you compare it to Europe, I think that in Europe, it's more of a necessity that they have their sustainability because they have a small amount of resources and a large population. Whereas here, it's more of a moral issue that people are conscious and aware of the need to keep our pristine wilderness pristine. And because we have vast resources, which we haven't always managed properly, there is a great desire and a need amongst Canadians to participate in things like recycling. And so my travels within the US, there are some places, I know Arizona and California, and again, I think it's more of the issue has been forced there because they have a smaller amount of resources and a greater amount of people, but they're very good with sustainability there. But however, other places I've traveled, and you know, it's been over the years, so things may have progressed and changed. But I know places like Las Vegas, Texas, North Carolina, they're still throwing pop bottles and pop cans into the garbage. They don't have the 5-cent, 10-cent deposit on their beverage containers. They may now, but when I was there, people were throwing those into the garbage, and I was kind of outraged. But there's not really a lot that you can do except for be able to educate people, which is part of what these like disruptive technology hangouts are all about, is about educating people about what the problems are, what the needs are, and then the opportunity that lies within solutions. And
Right.
so if you're in Texas or in North Carolina or anywhere in the world where they are not recycling these materials, it would be, I think, very easily to convince a municipality or local government to follow. Like, you don't even have to create anything. You just have to look to other municipalities that have implemented these deposits on these beverage containers, and you could easily shift your own community into actively recycling these, because you know, here and in places where they do put those deposit on bottles, you'll have kids. Like I remember when I was a little kid, we used to go up and down gravel roads out in the country and pick cans and bottles out of the ditches. Hopefully people aren't throwing those in the ditches as often as they used to. But if where you lived, if that was implemented, there's like kids and homeless people, disadvantaged people that will actually go and pick this stuff up and collect it to cash it in for that little bit of money for whatever it is, rather than see all this stuff end up in the landfill. It's just absolutely phenomenal to me that that happens. And I remember maybe about 5 years ago, I found out that New York City had just implemented a deposit for beverage containers to be recycled. And I was astonished because I don't remember a time in my life that those were garbage. As long as I can remember, yeah, lots of stuff that we recycle now, newspapers, yeah, plastics, that kind of stuff was all garbage when I was a kid, but we always recycled our pop cans and bottles. That was always recycled. There was always a deposit here. So I was in absolute shock a few years ago when I found out, oh, New York is putting a deposit on their bottles. I'm like, really? I thought everybody recycled this stuff. But there's places that are really, really far behind where we even are in Canada. So anybody out there watching, if you're in a place where they're letting this stuff go to the landfill, mastermind with some concerned citizens around you and arrange to you know, send letters into your representatives and say, you know, we should really have a deposit on this stuff. And it not only will it clean stuff out of the landfill, but you will be surprised that people will go out and clean up this stuff all over the landscape when you put like a 5 or 10 cent value on it.
Well, you should also realize that a lot of people are, or a lot of communities have single stream waste management. So the waste is actually being collected like garbage. However, I have seen sorting facilities that in they're in Ireland, I believe, or somewhere in the British Isles or in Britain, where they have single stream garbage. They don't have any recycling program. However, all their garbage is collected. It's sent to a facility. It's not sent to a landfill. It's sent to a facility, and this facility uses robots to sort through everything, the entire waste stream, everything except for sewage. So it's the full-on household and industrial waste stream that gets completely sorted, which is not a great thing, simply because if you got paper mixed in with oil, the paper is going to have no value. So it's probably a system that they're, I don't know if they're happy with it or content with it or how it really works, but having robots doing the sorting of the recycling out of the waste is smart, because I don't think it should be humans in contact with any of this stuff in the first place. So,
yeah, definitely. If you've been to a dump, you know it's not a pleasant place to be. And what you're talking about sounds like a glorified dump where they sort things. And yeah, definitely, I imagine a lot of recyclable materials would be damaged and contaminated when just put in a one stream garbage system. So I don't know, that's kind of cool that they do that, but then at the same time it may or may not be the best, most advantageous.
It's not. We know that for sure.
Okay.
It's been proven by academics that single stream recycling is not nearly as effective as separated systems, simply because with separated systems, meaning separating your paper from your plastic from your glass, means that nothing gets in contact with one another. So your materials are pristine raw materials when they're collected that way and kept separate. So it's a win-win situation with that kind of situation. The thing is, yes, it creates more work, it creates more jobs, and so I think a lot of people are really not realizing this, that the era of sustainability that we are entering, which is completely disrupting the entire planet, is actually creating more jobs than anything right now. Solar industry is employing way more people than coal and oil and gas, simply because it's a growing industry. Oil and gas is an established industry and it's being depleted. So why not get with the program and get into solar, get into some kind of solar idea? Yeah, I think people have to remember that they have something called an imagination. And I think a lot of people stopped using their imagination for some reason.
Well,
And
I know the reason. There is such a major influx of entertainment for people to choose from. It's just endless. Like most people, when you go into their homes, like personally, I don't have a television. I haven't had one for a long time. I still find an abundance of entertainment to waste my time with just on the internet. But when I go to somebody's place that has a television, they have 700 channels to choose from. When I was a kid growing up, we had 13. And then as an adult, when I had a television, I had what was called Peasant View, which was an antenna, which got me 3 channels. And one of them was so fuzzy, you never really watched it. But there was only 3 channels that came in. And now with 700 channels and 2 or 3 video game systems and a computer and a laptop and a smartphone, people are just they're completely absorbed and entertained with this screen time, which I don't think is very conducive to imagination. And I would actually even argue that it can kill imagination. Like, what could you possibly imagine for yourself better than this virtual reality world that you're become a part of in a game? Well, you could imagine a lot better stuff for yourself, but without taking that time to unplug from all this entertainment, you're never going to come up with those things that you can imagine that are far greater than anything you can find on a screen. But yeah, definitely the abundance of entertainment materials that are available for absolutely anyone at your fingertips is, I think, played a big role in killing imagination.
so if I could finish my statement, I was going to say uh, people, by not using their imagination, uh, is limiting to productivity. So if you're entering as an era of sustainability, what this means is you have to use your imagination to come up with new ways of creating work. You have to come up with new ways of creating products using recycled materials or reusing materials. And by doing that, maybe someday there won't be something called bottled water anymore. Maybe there will be something called clean rivers, clean lakes, stuff my parents used to drink right out of without a care or a worry about getting sick. It didn't take very long for a lot of poisons to screw up our water table. Didn't take very long at all. And so I think people have to think about this for a minute. You're buying a bottle of water, and then the bottle is going to the landfill, and then chemicals leach out of the bottle and enter your water table. So it's like a vicious circle that has to be stopped. And I think that's where the disruption of the whole topic comes into play, is people have to change their way of thinking and go back to thinking thinking with more using more imaginative ideas. And I think farmers are a really good resource to draw on because they are they have to use their imagination because they don't have a lot of people to rely on to solve problems. And historically, I'm not sure if that's the way it is today, but it's almost like we're going to be farmers farming this landfill issue and getting the stuff out of the landfill that is not compostable. And that's this disruptive technology hangout has been based on plastics, which is what I really wanted to talk about because it's one thing that definitely is not compost.
Yeah, all that plastic out there, it'll outlive us all. It does not biodegrade. It'll be in the environment for another 100 years in some shape or form. Uh, so yeah, definitely, it's a great topic, and we can talk about this like forever from all different angles. And definitely, though, being that as human beings with our industrial revolution and all of our modern technology and society, we've created some pretty big problems. And for me, I find that super exciting because with big problems comes big opportunities for problem solvers. So basically, anybody out there who's focused on solutions that will help all of us people to live more sustainably, you're going to have an avalanche of success come into your life because I think it's on the hearts and the minds of absolutely every person on this planet. Each and every one of us has seen changes that are disturbing. Like I just heard recently, they have, oh, what did they call it? Oh, I'll have to look it up and tell you guys about it later. But it's coming up to the our special event here. So, do you have any final thoughts, Larry?
I think to sum it up is that I've always stated that when I was little, we used to have wells and lakes and stuff that we could swim in, and my nieces and nephews uh, and kids, my own children, don't have that opportunity to enjoy that in life. And a lot of that has to do with our waste stream.
Awesome. Yeah, big opportunity there for problem solvers for sure. So right now, I just want to let everybody know the reason that we rescheduled our hangout for today. Typically, we have these disruptive technology hangouts Mondays. This Monday was Memorial Day weekend, so we didn't do the Monday hangout. But typically, we have these hangouts Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Today, we had our hangout at 6 p.m. Eastern because company that actually inspired us to start doing these hangouts is hosting a special event. They're launching a new product, which they actually haven't released the name of the product yet. Everybody has had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to get the bits of information about this project. But what they've been calling it as a code name is Project Titan. So if you're on the Hangout page, you'll notice below the Hangout is a button for Project Titan. In just a few minutes here, they're going to be going live and having a fireside chat with some of the leadership within the company. And Empower Network, I believe, now has allowed its affiliates to earn, well, I shouldn't say earn, but I know that they've sold somewhere around $200 million worth of information products on the internet. And a lot of that money has been paid out to the affiliates of the company, of which we are. And I think that there's been over 18 people that have earned over $1 million in less than, or in 4 years, in right around just over 4 years. So some of these millionaires are going to be sharing some of their secrets for being able to generate internet income. So if you're not living under a rock, you probably realize that our brick and mortar way of shopping and consuming has been shifting to click and order on the internet. So a lot more people are making all kinds of purchases on the internet rather than in the store. And an affiliate is someone that presents products to consumers and earns a commission based on the sale of those products. So you could be an affiliate for Walmart or Target or Home Depot, and basically as an affiliate you would send links for customers to purchase products, and in that process you would receive commission amount from each of those sales. So basically every time anyone makes a purchase on the internet, somebody somewhere probably is collecting a commission. And so the Empower Network is all about teaching people how to be able to create those commissions, because I don't think there's a person on the planet that doesn't want to create financial mobility in their life and be able to have more, do more, be more than what they have now. And I'm a firm believer that in this life, absolutely anybody can be, do, and have anything they want, or we can have everything we want. And I choose everything, and I think you should too. So click the link below, join us for this special fireside chat, and learn how you can have everything, or maybe just a little bit more. Right now, it should be starting. So thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. And if I don't see you in the future, I will see you out on the pasture. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you will join us on this special Project Titan broadcast. All right. Thanks, Larry. Bye-bye.
See you later.